Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion on this beautiful Monday. Although the market's not looking so beautiful, they started off a little bit of negative, then we got started to get a little bit better, and then again pushed to the downside. But that has been exactly what we've been seeing now for the better part of, call it, a little over 2 months. 2022. That's the way things have been trading. That continues to be the mode. As a matter of fact, you go back to Friday. We had to rally 350 points late in the day, in the final 12 minutes of the day, to be able to close at minus 180 points or thereabouts. So gives you a definite idea of exactly where we are in these markets. They continue to be that way. We've had the final 22 minutes. We've had the final 30 minutes. On Friday, it was the final 12 minutes where we just see these huge moves to the downside. Now, not a good day for the NASDAQ. NASDAQ absolutely slaughtered on Friday. It was down 225 points. That was not good. 1.6% move to the downside for the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ did not really hold its end of the bargain up, but we've seen disconnects in the past. We've seen where we've had the Dow moving to the upside, NASDAQ moving against it, and then vice versa. So again, we just continue to see these wild markets, these wild swings, the velocity of these moves. And we continue to talk about where volatility really is. As a matter of fact, volatility on Friday, we traded between, call it 31 and almost 35, closed around 32, 33. Today, we're trading around 33, 34. So the volatility side of things really not moving a lot. But what we're seeing a little bit of today, I know I'm jumping around, but what we're seeing a little bit of today is some of those gains that we got late in the last 12 minutes, well, they're showing back up as losses in the first hour or so of the trading day. And that's kind of giving it back to where it was. So really interesting day on Friday. We had a lot of different things going on. We had 46 million contracts trading. Big day once again. As I mentioned, we had crude, by the way, that was really one of those areas where we look at this commodity space. And I know that and I'm one of them at fault. I focus on crude, but it's not just crude. It's crude. It's copper. It's gold. It's starting to be a little bit of silver. We're seeing some activity there. Palladium, you name it. We are seeing some incredibly fast moves to the upside. Copper today over 5. Copper on Friday closed at one of the highest levels, maybe the highest level all time. Just some huge moves that we are seeing in this market. And of course, talking about inflation, transitory. I have not heard that word used in a really long time. I don't know about you, not hearing transitory. As a matter of fact, we are seeing inflation signs just about everywhere we look. A lot of folks are even pointing towards wheat and some of those areas as well. And that, of course, turns the market into agriculture, right? You start looking at some of these other firms like a Mosaic, which has had some pretty interesting runs of late. As a matter of fact, we had some unusual options last week in Mosaic. And wow, it just was amazing. It looked like something that we would never be able to see that kind of a move because it had already made such a move. It ended up making that same kind of a move. So how did we finish out the week? Well, energy leading. Matter of fact, on Friday, energy was up about 3% or so. Financials were getting beat up though. Then you look at technology, that was getting beat up. Semiconductors really getting hammered to the downside, nearly 3 points to the downside. Names like NVIDIA and AMD and Marvell and Micron and Qualcomm, and you know the list. But you look at the push that you get from some of the areas, and you can see some of the pull that you're getting specifically from that NASDAQ. Chinese names were under pressure on Friday. The PDDs and the JDs of the world. We had CrowdStrike, DocuSign, Okta, Zscaler. There was some weakness out there. There's no doubt about it. We also had airlines moving around a little bit with United and American. Financials, though, you look over at the financials, they really were breaking down. Anything from Visa to Goldman Sachs to JP Morgan, American Express. Remember last week, I called into the halftime report. We were talking. They actually asked, hey, Pete, what are you doing today? I said, well, I see some really large put buying in American Express. Now, for whatever reason, it didn't look like it was a hedge to me, at least. It looked like somebody basically putting out some money into a trade, into a spread where they were looking for downside. I tell you what, it's getting awfully close to those levels. Stock was trading, think about north of 181 at the time, and they were buying the 160 puts in a $10 put spread. And within that whole spread, that thing is going to start moving fairly rapidly because we are pushing down today back down to those levels, closer and closer to that 160 level, that's when things will really start to move. Not everything was bad. We did, as I mentioned, energy was pretty strong. Occidental, you look at Marathon Petroleum, Marathon Oil, you look at Diamondback, those names, and the rails. And this is something that really popped into our screens over the last week or so. We finally started seeing some of these rails really start to just show up as they're breaking out to the upside. CSX hit on multiple occasions in the last week or so. We also had some Norfolk Southern. We've had a lot of different parts of that area starting to see a little bit more activity there. Chevron, of course, with energy, that was doing pretty well. Walmart and Walgreens as well. Those kinds of names, because people are trying to find something that they consider to be a safe area. And that was something that definitely played out this past week as well. So as we continue to go through Ukraine, Russia, people jumping around, see crude absolutely exploding to the upside. I think I saw it over 125, but that was very, very light trading. And then you come back. But today, mostly trading somewhere in the upper teens. 118, 119 is where you're seeing crude on a really big run. And we've been talking about this run for so long. It's just amazing. This is not just a Ukrainian story, but that is definitely fuel, that a catalyst that has pushed it well above 100 and to the levels where we are right now. But certainly you have to look back, and you have to look over the last 15, 16, 17 months. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. Just look at it on a chart. This has been moving for quite some time. And we've been seeing the derivatives world telling us that it was going to make this kind of a move, at least to the upside, and the rolls just kept on coming. And we are seeing it more and more. Some of these companies that were near bankruptcy are now flush with cash. And that's a very, very interesting thing in a very short period of time. Gasoline prices jumping. Boy, are they jumping. I think I saw one story that was talking about 11% move in just the last week for gasoline prices. So we are seeing a lot of this start to play out, and that's going to hit all of us in the pocketbook. We'll see how that plays, of course. You've got gold as well, gold piercing over 2,000. So this isn't just an oil story. This is a gold, it's a silver, it's palladium, it's wheat, it's gold. I mean, you name it, crude. Across the board, we are seeing all kinds of moves to the upside in the commodities space. Again, financials today started off a little over 1%, down 2%. I look over at Staples, down a little over 1%, that extending a little bit further. Last I looked, we were just before coming on here, we're down about 400 points, a little bit more on the Dow, down about 230 points. Now, let's remember, when we talk about these velocity moves, this is what I'm talking about. Today, early on, we had NASDAQ not only coming back off of its lows, but actually getting into positive territory and flirting right around that flat line, right? And now, take a look at it, down through 230 points just before I came on with you guys. So it does move incredibly fast right now with markets that we've got. Technology down about 2%. It was flat early. I show energy up about 3%. It was only up about 0.5% early on, and then the acceleration started to begin. So that was all part of it. Now, what's strong today? Because it's always interesting to look, what are some of the strengths when we're looking at a weak market? Well, Beta Energy makes a lot of sense. Mosaic makes a lot of sense. Those are those names that are attached to some of these commodities. Lucid, you've got that moving to the upside. We've got Zoom moving to the upside, Marvell moving to the upside. So a couple scattered names. Some of the pressure is on right now. Ralph Lauren, I look at PVH, those names, some of the exposure over into that area of Ukraine and Russia. You've got Freeport McMoran as well, having a little bit of weakness. That has been a name that has screamed to the upside. Let's be honest, absolutely on a tear to the upside. So there are pauses at times. We saw that pause happen in crude itself after it made that huge run from the upper 30s into the 80s. Then it backed off into the upper 60s, kind of gathered itself, and then this next move to the upside where we were before Russia-Ukraine really became a storyline. So here we go with two unusual option activities, then I'm out of here. Vale, getting back to the material space, that was trading about 2084. Now we've had this hit on multiple occasions. This, again, I continue to add to positions along the way and then trim. Today, by the way, one of the biggest trimming days that I've had in an extremely long period of time, just being disciplined. And I think that is a big key to what's going on in this market. Seeing a lot of rolls to the upside, that's another form of discipline. But sometimes you've got to take a little bit off as these things explode to the upside. So Vale, trading about 2084. We had a buyer of 5,500 of the April 22 calls. Now, they were rolling those from a winning trade already at the March 20 calls that was just very recently bought, but it's moving so rapidly. They're selling those, taking profits, but still want to be in the trade with these April 22 calls going for about 55 cents. Next, Exelon. So we're sort of staying with energy, but this is more on the utility side, but Exelon trading 44.67. Now, this is going to be an interesting one because we've been talking about CCJ. We've been talking about a lot of what's going on in uranium. We've had URA hits. We've had CCJ. I've got multiple positions in there. So there's a lot of activity in this space. 5,000 of the March 46 calls. Now, again, stock was trading a little over 44.5. The 46 calls in March, 30 cents up to about 50 cents, 5,000 of these. It presently trading at the highest levels that it's traded in multiple years. So another side of what's going on when you want to look at charts and all that kind of stuff. That one definitely stands out as well. Folks, I know I went a little bit long. I hope you have a great day of trading. Be disciplined, understand the derivatives markets, and understand the risk reward, how you can control it. If you need a little bit of help, obviously there are books out there. There's the internet out there. We've got a great team here of educators as well. But you want to know about the derivatives markets. And as I mentioned, monster trade again on Friday in the plus 40 million contract. Unbelievable. Folks, have a great day of trading.